Okay. So in the last lecture, we derived this sort of instructive derivation in the sense that we are not claiming that that's the only way we can derive it, but it gives us an instructive way of finding out these constants. So we derived this Lorentz transformation and we found it like this. Now the first thing that we should now do is check that under Galilean-Newtonian framework, which is what we have been using so far, right, does this give the correct result or does it give the same familiar result? Right? And now how do we go from STR formalism to Galilean-Newtonian? Well, the thing is that STR to Galilean-Newtonian, the idea is that velocity is much less than speed of light. Right? Because that is why we had that kind of our intuition is actually built on that concept. We have seen all bodies, all phenomena happening at a rate, at a speed which is much less than the measured or the calculated value of speed of light. And that is how our intuition is built. That's why we find all these concepts non-intuitive, because we have never seen phenomena moving at speed which are compared to the speed of light. Right? So the Galilean framework basically means that anything that is happening with velocity, with speed, which is much less than c. And if that is the case, if we put in here speed, let's say if v is much less than c, then in that case my x prime is, well, gamma x minus vt, and gamma is 1 over square root of 1 minus v square over c square, where now this term is negligible, so it's very close to 1. So this is nothing but x minus vt, our familiar transformation law for coordinates. And what about time? T prime is again 1, t minus v over c square x. However, since v is much less than c, v over c square is definitely going to be another order of magnitude less than this one. I mean, orders of magnitude less than this one. So v over c square is also negligible. So that means the contribution from the x is negligible. We won't be able to measure it. That's what has been happening for 400 years. We could never measure the contribution from here in terms of measuring time in moving frames. And that is why we always thought and built our intuition that time is a universal constant. Right? So we can fall back onto this, our familiar Galilean-Newtonian framework. So fine. So the transformation law, at least so far, looks fine. And actually there is no complication with this any further. This is the transformation law. We can now, this is S prime as seen from S, right? We can do a reverse transformation. The reverse transformation, all it requires is changing the nature of velocity. Speed is, S prime is moving with speed v in one direction. With respect to S prime, S is moving with speed v in the other direction. It's just a relative velocity, right? So we can invert these transformations and write down transformation for x and t. So in S frame, and all that matters is, or all that will change is, this will be x prime plus vt, and here this will be t prime plus v over c square x prime. So that's the inverse transformation. Of course, you can write it down in terms of that gamma beta matrix that I used earlier. Okay. Now we can do this. We can have these inverse transformations. We can have the transformation between any other coordinate frame. It doesn't matter. For the sake of remembrance, I'll just write down this transformation equations here because we might use them rather frequently here now. X minus vt, and t prime is gamma t prime minus v by c square x prime. And actually, if you write it down some 5, 6, 10 times, it will be easy for you to remember, and you will not make the mistake anytime again. Okay. Now, before going on further, let us discuss one important aspect of which will also come from these transformation equations. But right now, I'll discuss it from the point of view of this time dilation and length contraction. What we did in those thought experiments, at least in terms of time dilation, which we discussed in detail, is that we are measuring this time interval delta t from that frame S, where the event is happening in that frame S prime, right, at the same location, and we found out that the time will appear to go slower. We'll measure a larger time interval, and the time interval is then looking as if it is going with a factor of gamma. Okay. Now what will happen is, if I look at the same thing from the point of view of a person in S prime, because from the point of view of an observer in S prime, the S prime observer is stationary. However, the S frame is moving in the opposite direction with velocity v. So the gamma vector is also going to come there in the exact same way. And since gamma vector is independent of the direction of v or the sign of v, right? What we will get is, if we use the same analysis, we will get delta t prime also equal to gamma delta t. So it's hard, as long as both the observers are independent and they are only connected by this relative velocity, so they cannot tell which frame is actually moving. It is not possible for them to come to a exact same conclusion. They both will say that no, my clock is running fine, your clock is running slower, because as we established with this time dilation example, moving clocks appear to run slower, and from the point of view of both the observers, the other one is actually the moving one. Right? Similar thing will happen here, and if the measurement is performed with reference to this delta x with the x prime frame, then we'll get the same result, that the observer inside the train will say, no, your platform is shorter. The observer on platform says, no, your train is shorter. The observer from the train says, no, your platform is shorter. So they both cannot come to the same conclusion, because there is no way to distinguish between the two frames as long as we are making measurement from either frame. So a third observer will give something different, and a third observer might try to tell who is more, according to him, who seems to be correct, right? But that again will be depending on the relationship of the third observer with respect to the first and second observer, right? So this debate cannot be sorted out. Of course, this is not a debate to be sorted out, because they both are talking about different things, but more on that maybe later. Right now we don't have to worry about it. Right now what we need is some kind of a reference, because at least as a third observer who is trying to explain all these things, I need to establish some kind of a reference, right? And what we do is, we do have a reference in terms of defining these differentiating between the frames, and the reference is, we define something called proper space interval. We'll write it as delta x0 or simply x0, and proper, so we'll not put prime and double prime on it, because though we are really to differentiate the frames. So let's just put a subscript 0 or a not there to say that this is not a definition, or this is not the expression for proper time interval. So proper space interval, proper time interval, so again delta t0 or simply t0. Now this could be whichever one, we'll see which one it comes out to be. However, what is the definition of this? This is just the language, right? So what is the definition of this? So the proper space interval and proper time interval is defined as observed in the rest frame of the event, right? So now, to define this proper time interval, proper space interval, we need to know what is the event that we are talking about. For example, in that example of measurement of length of a train car, let's take the length contraction example. So this is a train car which is moving. Length L prime as observed or as measured by an observer sitting in the train car, and length L as observed by a person standing stationary, let's say on the platform, and the train is passing by the platform. Right? When I look at this, I say the length I measure is smaller than the length he is quoting, L prime by gamma. When he measures the distance the train takes to cross the platform, right? This observer will also say that no, my train length is L prime, but this one is diminished by that same factor. So what you are saying is not the correct length of the platform, right? So there is an apparent contradiction between these two. Now what we are saying is the proper length of the train. Let's say if you want to define proper length of a train. So now here if I say that the idea is to find the proper length of the train, not the platform. They are not equivalent things. The train may not cross the exact same length on the platform. That depends on the perspective, right? But if we are talking about length of the train, then the proper length will be defined as observed in the rest frame of the event. So if event is measurement of the length of the train, then the proper length will be defined by the observer who is at rest with respect to this train, and that means then L prime becomes my proper length. So whenever the observation is done from a frame which is stationary with respect to the event, we will get the proper space interval or the proper length. And if an event is happening here, let's say a light pulse going up and then coming down, then the interval it takes in this frame is the proper time interval, and whatever we measure from the outside is that the time dilated or length contracted measurement, right? So this is the definition of proper time interval and proper space interval, which you should keep in mind, because otherwise we can always get into these kind of contradictions. Right? So let me now try to end up this discussion and then move on to something different, different related to the same topic, by looking at another scenario which basically is then related to relative velocities, or more familiarly addition of speeds, or rather velocities also, doesn't matter. Right now we are using both the terms quite loosely. So anyway, addition of speeds. So what I mean by here is, let me frame the problem. So let a bullet is fired in a train car, right? The car is moving with respect to ground, right? Question is, what is the speed of bullet with respect to ground, or as observed from an observer stationary on the ground, right? This is the problem. So basically what I am trying to say is, I have an inertial frame which is now, let's say I am the observer, so this is my inertial frame, I am standing here. There is a train car in which a bullet has been fired. So the bullet is going in this direction, and after a certain time it will be reaching this. A bullet has been fired. Now let's say in this train car there is an observer, or there is a person who has a gun, so he shoots the bullet, and the velocity or the speed of the bullet in this train car, so the train car then now makes another reference frame, x prime t prime, origin s prime or s. The bullet has a velocity v prime in this frame. The train car itself is moving with speed v with respect to this frame s. So what is the speed of this bullet u, let's call it u, in the frame s, or as observed by the observer in the frame s. Again, Galilean Newtonian, we know speed of the bullet v prime, speed of the frame v, u is simply equal to v plus v prime. Right? However, in STR, that's not going to be the case. That is not how we will write down, or how we can get to that, because times are different. Right? So what is happening is, in this one, how do we measure that this is v prime? We measure some space interval delta x, we measure the corresponding time interval delta t prime, and then we get v prime is delta x prime over delta t prime. That's how we measure the velocities, that's how we measure the speeds. Right? The observer here will also do the same thing. It will look at the path of the bullet, at the motion of the bullet for a certain time interval. It will measure delta x, delta t, and that will be the speed of the bullet as observed by the observer in frame S. So let's start from there. U is delta x over delta t, which is connected to measurements done in this moving frame by this transformation. This is the Lorentz transformation. So now once we have this transformation, we don't have to worry about time dilation, length contraction. We simply have to use this transformation law, and that will give us the correct result. In fact, you can now derive these dilation and contraction rules or the expression just by using the Lorentz transformation. So let's use that. So delta x is then gamma delta x prime minus v, speed of the frame, delta t prime. Yes. So here is the prime here. Always keep that in mind. Divided by delta t. Delta t is not same in both the frames. That's what the mistake that we did in Newtonian Galilean framework. So now we don't do that. We rectify that by using the correct transformation. So again gamma delta t prime minus v by c square delta x prime. Right? And now rest is slight algebra on this. So let's divide. First of all, gamma will cancel out. Let's divide both sides by delta t prime. So delta x prime over delta t prime minus v no. So okay, so there will be a positive sign here because what I am looking for is delta x. However, what I have written here is x prime as the transformation of x prime in terms of x and t. Okay, sorry. So there is no prime here, and so I have actually written down these. So unless you are careful, you can always make this kind of mistakes. X prime is gamma x minus vt, and t prime is gamma t minus v over c square x. Sorry. Okay, right. Yeah. So when we do the inverse one, basically we are going to flip the velocities. So these are both plus signs here. So plus v, and then similarly divide this. So 1 plus v by c square delta x prime over delta t prime. In the limit delta x prime tends to 0, delta t prime tends to 0, which is the same limit delta x tends to 0, delta t tends to 0. We can now write it down as velocity. So this will be then now v prime plus v, the usual Galilean Newtonian velocity addition, divided by 1 plus v prime over c square. So this is the correct velocity addition formula for this, right? Again, let me not call it velocity addition formula. This is the correct speed addition formula in the sense that speed of this bullet was in the same direction as the direction of motion of the frame, right? So rather, I should call it as ux, and this as vx, right? But if the things are happening in the single dimension, then actually don't have to worry about this subscript, and everything makes rather obvious sense. Okay, so this is how we add the velocities when they are moving in the same direction, which was the same as writing v plus v, right? Divide of this factor, which comes because now the time itself or the measurement of time, the concept of time itself is different in different frames. Okay. Now, just as a demonstrative example, let us now do the same thing. So remember that this is the important formula to keep in mind. Let us do the same thing in y direction, right? So now the problem is known, so I don't have to have that problem written here. Now what is happening is, by starting out, everything is same. The frame S prime is moving with respect to S with a constant speed v in one direction, right? The coordinates are transforming x prime, t prime, and x and t. And now instead of firing the bullet horizontally, the bullet has been fired, let's say, vertically. Right? So these two equations are basically accompanied by two more. So as long as there is no relative motion in that direction, this remains as usual, right? The other coordinates are not going to be changed. So these are implicitly there, right? And now what we are saying is, let's look at the same problem of velocity addition, speed addition, when the bullet is fired in this direction. And now let me call this as Vy. Right? Now, if this is the case, then again, what is the uy of the bullet as measured from this frame? Well, let's start with the usual definition. Is delta y over delta t. Delta y is simply delta y prime. Delta t is not simply that. Delta t is still gamma delta t prime plus v by c square delta x prime. Delta t prime or delta t and delta t prime are always connected in the dimension in which motion between the two frames is taking place. So it doesn't matter along which direction we are looking at the event. The frames are still connected, so the time and that particular coordinate dimension are still connected in the exact same way using the Lorentz transformation. So this is the case, and this again can be written as delta y prime over delta t prime. So gamma 1 plus v over c square delta x prime over delta t prime, right? And this is what? This is nothing but this is vy divided by gamma 1 plus vx over c square. And now, if it's known that the bullet is fired exactly vertically in the s prime frame, such that vx prime is actually 0, then this term has no consequence and there is only gamma. So in that case, uy, so if vx prime is equal to 0, then in that case, uy or the vertical speed as measured by the observer in this frame, in the frame S, is not same as what the observer in the moving frame measures, but this will be diminished by this factor gamma, right? And the same thing will hold for, if let's say we have the uz, then this will be simply bz prime over gamma, right? So this is the case, and again, this is not, now with this framework, this is not very counterintuitive or very different, because now what we are saying is speeds are related to measurements of space intervals and time intervals, which are connected between the two frames using these Lorentz transformations. So if the speed is measured in the direction where this space coordinate and time coordinates or space interval and time interval are related to each other, then they have a combined effect which gives us the previous speed addition formula. If not, because what we are kind of saying there is that in between the two frames, with this frame, so this frame will measure proper space interval and proper time interval, so it will give us one speed. This one basically measures a length contracted space interval and a time dilated time interval, and that's why we get the measured speed is quite different from what is there, and it's not simply addition of these two velocity speeds, right? In the other directions, in the along the y coordinate or z coordinate, where the transformation is in terms of space is actually not making a difference, but in terms of time it's still going to contribute, right? So that means one of these is contributing, and that is why there is still an effect on the vertical velocity or the normal velocity in that case, and effectively they get diminished by this factor gamma. Okay. So we'll continue further in the next lecture, and we'll try to see if we pick up some more examples to demonstrate this.